If a criminal wants to enjoy their illegally acquired wealth, they first have to launder the money, creating a fake paper trail to disguise where they got it from. Often people will take money abroad to do this, hoping that the cross-border aspect will make it harder to trace. A recent report from the UK government identified the top 10 countries British criminals turn to when they want to clean their cash based on 5 years' worth of criminal assets recovered from abroad. Like Spain, the government has a dedicated asset recovery advisor stationed in UAE and has also negotiated asset-sharing agreements with the country to help detection and action. Like Switzerland, Hong Kong, and Liechtenstein, the financial clout of the UAE in the Middle East makes it a target for money launderers. The CIA's World Factbook entry for the country notes, the UAE's position as a major financial center makes it vulnerable to money laundering. Anti-money laundering controls improving, but informal banking remains unregulated. Pakistan is a hotspot for terrorist financing, as well as money laundering, with lots of undeclared cash passing through the country. The government's report says of countries like Pakistan, a lack of strong governance, weak regulations, an absence of the rule of law, lack of financial investigation legislation or capacity, a lack of genuine partnership working in certain countries all provide additional challenges. The secrecy of Switzerland's banking system is legendary, but that leaves it open to abuse by criminals who don't want their money to be traced. The country recently announced tougher anti-money laundering rules, with the Swiss Banking Association saying, "The fight against money laundering and terrorist financing are central issues for the Swiss financial center." Spain has traditionally been the location of choice for British gangsters looking to retire in the sun. But the government has long since cottoned on to this, and the report says the UK has done deals to make Spain a more hostile place for UK criminals. The UK has had an asset recovery advisor, ARA, posted permanently in Spain since last year, and over £1 million has been confiscated since then. Like many of the countries on the list, Liechtenstein was traditionally seen as a tax haven, and finance is one of the biggest industries in the tiny, landlocked country. Liechtenstein was criticized for lax financial controls in 2 reports released in 2000, and the BBC says, the reports said that the Liechtenstein banking system enabled gangs from Russia, Italy and Colombia to launder money from their criminal activities. Since then, Liechtenstein has moved to reform its banking system, easing secrecy laws, and struck deals with countries including the UK that make recovering stolen or illegally bought assets easier. Hong Kong is an Asian finance hotspot. The South China Morning Post reported last month, the number of serious fraud cases involving money laundering in Hong Kong has soared, police revealed, as syndicates increasingly recruit non-locals to clean their dirty cash. There were 9 laundering cases in the first half of this year alone, involving around $456 million. Yet in the whole of last year, there were only 4 cases, with about $245 million laundered. Cyprus is also known for its relatively lax financial system. An EU-commissioned report in 2013 damned the island's money laundering checks, and earlier this year The Independent claimed that Russians have deposited millions of dollars in cash in the Mediterranean island of Cyprus in what local bankers suspect has been a giant scheme to launder the profits of covert Middle East arms sales and the proceeds of Moscow's mafia. One of the UK's 4 overseas asset recovery advisors, officials tasked with recovering proceeds of crime, is posted to cover the Caribbean. Most of his time is likely spent dealing with the British Virgin Islands. The country is another tax haven known for the huge number of offshore companies legally based there. Disclosure is also limited, which has made some banks reluctant to deal with companies registered there. The Isle of Man is well known as a tax haven, with 0% corporation tax and 20% income tax, but it's also a money laundering hotspot too, it seems. 7 people were arrested earlier this year across the Isle of Man, the UK, and Guernsey, suspected of a £21 million money laundering fraud. Nigeria ranked 136 out of 174 on Transparency International's latest Corruption Perception Index. Corruption, particularly in government, has long been a problem in the country. Nigeria's former Minister of Petroleum was recently arrested in London on charges of money laundering.